Hello everyone and welcome back to African Tech Gurus. This is your number one channel where we learn technology by doing. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for clicking on our videos. Please make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell button so that each and every single time we do upload a video, you are immediately notified. If you are a returning viewer and a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sharing these videos with your friends who are learning tech together with us, and make sure that they subscribe as well and they click on the notification button so that they don't miss a single time we post a video. In today's video, we're going to cover shell navigation, one of the concepts. Previously, we covered how to do Linux navigation, and today we are going to look at looking around in Linux. So let us look at Linux looking around. So I have opened it and it is here. So they are assuming that we have looked at PWD, LS, and CD. So now we know how to move around our working directories and how to move from one working directory to the next. So the next thing that we need to now do is tour our system, not the Linux system, and learn a few things how to make it work. But before we continue, they want us to learn about some of the tools that will be handy during our journey at ALX and during the entire stay, and even afterwards, definitely. So the first one they want to learn in depth is LS. We looked at this in the previous video where we were covering shell navigation. And here LS will list all the files and directories that we do have in our system. The next thing is less. Less is a command that will help us view the text files that we do have in our system. And the next command is file, and this will help us classify the file's content. So let us dive into it. In the ls command, it is used to list the contents of a directory. We've seen that before. And one of the things that we also need to know is that it is the most used command in Linux. And why it is so is because it can be used in very many different ways, and some of them they have listed for us below. We looked at ls plain in the previous video, and it helps us just list the files in the working directory. But the other thing is we can have other options and other arguments with it, and that is ls leading or forward slash and the name of a directory called bin. So here it will help us list the files in that specific directory that we have mentioned and we have specified. The other thing is ls-l. So this will list the files in the current working directory but in long format, and we'll look at the long format later on in the video. The other thing we can do is we can use ls command with -l, which is in long format, and the name of the directory. So here we can look at two directories. So it will list the files in the bin directory and also in the etc directory in long format. So here we are just seeing or viewing two directories at once, and we're viewing them in long format. The other command that we can use, a combination of ls, is ls-la. And what this does is it will list all files, and here it will include even the ones that will begin with a period character, which are usually hidden, as we had previously seen. And these files are also the ones that will be in our parent working directory and in long format. So how we get to know this is because, one, we have the -l. What it will do is it will list all the files in long format. I hope you got that one. The next thing is we have the A. Here it will help show all files, even the ones that have a period character. And the other thing that we can see is the two dots, which we had earlier seen, and it specifically tells us that we look in the parent working directory. So I hope you got that one right. So the next thing that we might have seen is how now the commands operate or work, or their syntax. So normally is we will have the name of the command itself. The next thing we'll have is the dash options, and here it will give the different adjustments of how this specific command that we have mentioned works or behaves. And lastly, we have the arguments, which are one or more things, quote unquote, upon which the command should operate on. I hope you got that one right. So we had actually looked at the long format. Now let's dig deeper into it and see exactly what long format will do. So if we use the -L, that is how we are able to access the long format, and we use it with the ls command. And here we will get a file that will list, it will contain a lot of information about the files which have been listed. So this is an example of what we have. So the first thing that we have is how the long format is. So this is a long format for 4 files. A long format for 4 files. So one file is that, what I have highlighted in blue, that is the long format for one file. It contains a lot of information which might be useful to you as the user, and it will just depend on what you're looking for. So the first thing that we will see when we start to our right, what I have highlighted, that is the name of the file or the specific directory. That is the name of the file or the directory. The next thing that we can look at is the date or the time it was last modified. It was last modified, and if the last modification was more than 6 months in the past, the date and year will be displayed. But if it was less than 6 months, even the time of day will be displayed. So for example, what I have displayed and highlighted in blue is what was modified last more than 6 months ago. And the third instance, which is February 11th at 8 p.m., 8:41 p.m., it is a file called web_site.tar that was modified less than 6 months ago. The next thing that we have is this, what I have highlighted in blue, that is the size of the file in bytes. And if we remember, one single byte is equivalent to 8 bits. And a bit is a binary digit, which is the smallest format in which you can store data in a computer. The next thing that we do have is this, which is the group of the file or of the directory, and what it does is it has the file permissions with it. So the name of the group has file permissions in addition to the owner. I hope you got that one right. The other thing that we do have is me as well, and it can be different, is the name of the user, of the person who actually owns the file. The person who owns the file. And lastly, we do have the file permissions. The file permissions, and that is all this. This is the file permissions. So the different combinations will represent different file permissions, and here it will just be the different access levels and the different access criteria that the different users or the different groups can have. And the first character in our case is the dash, and what it just does is it will just tell us that it is a regular or an ordinary file. D will stand for a directory, and the second set of 3 characters will represent read, write, and execute rights for the file owner. And after that, the next 3 will represent the rights of the files group, and the last 3 will represent the rights granted to everyone else. So you don't need to understand this in depth because it will be discussed later on, but having a general overview will help you understand it better. The next thing is the less program, which will help us view now the text file itself. It's very handy but it can also be very overwhelming, and we can also now be able to even control it later on. So what is a text? So a text is just a simple one-to-one mapping of the characters that we have to numbers. Remember, the only way a computer is able to recognize information is through numbers. And text is one of those simple ways where we can one-to-one map these characters that we have to numbers. And it is very compact, and 50 characters of text will simply translate into 50 bytes. So a single character is a single byte. And throughout our Linux system, many files will be stored in the text format, and there are very many tools that we can now work and manipulate these specific text files that we do have. So one of the earliest and most simplest way is the ASCII text. So what it does is it will just simply help us encode our keyboard characters to numbers. So each and every single keyboard character that we have, if we use the ASCII, will be translated into numbers, and we will use the ASCII text encoding scheme. I hope you got that one right. So if you want to use the less program, we actually use the command less and the name of the file, and that will display the actual file itself. But remember that once you start less, it will display the text file one page at a time. And how you can move from one page to the next, you can use the page up to move one page back, and use page down or the spacebar to move one page forward. The other command that you can use is G, which will go to the end of the text file, so you don't have to press page up or B to get to the, you don't need to press page down or space to get one by one step to the last, just press G. And if you want to get to the beginning of the text file, use 1G. So just make sure you're able to understand these commands that you can use with less to control it. And one of the most important ones that you can use is Q, which will help you quit that specific file. And one thing which is very helpful is for us to understand the file command. So as we are moving around our Linux system, it is very, very helpful for us to determine the kind of data that a file will contain before we even try to view it. Because now once we invoke or use the less command, it is a bit troublesome to actually control it. But before we get to that level where you use the less command, you can use the file command. And what it will do is it will examine a file and it will tell you what kind of file it is. I hope you got that one right. So if you simply want to use the file program to have an overview of what your file contains, you use the command file and the specific name of your file. And it is as simple as that. And the file program, please remember, it will only recognize most of the files, and it will recognize ASCII text, it will recognize Bourne, again, shell script text, which is bash script, and it will also recognize HTML documents and PostScript document text. So for the rest of the different file types, it will not be able to recognize it and actually give you a display of the kind of file that you're looking at and what kind of file it is. So I hope you have been able to understand these three commands and how you can use them. Don't feel overwhelmed if you've not been able to understand. Some of these concepts you'll use them on a daily basis and be able to understand more, and some of them will even be covered in the future. So happy that you are able to click on our video today. If you've not yet subscribed at this point, it will definitely be a big support for us if you click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell as well, so that each and every single time we post other videos, you are quickly notified. And if you have not yet shared this, please share it with a friend so that we all become African tech gurus. Thank you for watching today's video. Until next time, bye and happy coding.